Everyone in the BeADisciple.com Facebook group. I am here this morning with Reverend John Zimmerman. He is an elder in the Methodist Church, and he has one of the coolest appointments ever, as he is the General Evangelist for the denomination of the Methodist Church as a whole, which is so cool. Welcome, John. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you. Enjoy the opportunity to be here to share with everyone.
Yeah, is it a right visual that when I say your title, General Evangelist, it almost sounds militant? Am I? And I think you have a ministry. You and your wife do. Is it a consulting business, About Face Ministries? Is that right?
Yeah, that is the name of our ministry is About Face Church Outreach Consultants. And you know, I think evangelist in our culture does have a militant kind of tone to it, because that's been the traditional view of evangelist, you know, the hellfire, brimstone kind of preaching, revival services. And so that's not really what my wife and I do, although we love to do renewal and revival services. We're more engaged in relational evangelism.
Yes, this is such a mighty transition into our topic today, which is, what does evangelism look like in the 21st century? So for our friends that are watching this and joining us or watching the replay, feel free at any point to drop questions or comments below. And I'll make sure that John gets your question and gets back to you about this very interesting and much needed topic. So without further ado, I'm going to throw you the proverbial microphone.
All right, will do. Thanks. I think our culture has been in such a transition and in a rapid transition. And I think we're really at the first place in history in the United States, in the history of the United States, where we are not, I don't think we're living in a Christian culture, in a Christian country anymore. I think we are in a post-Christian culture, and that brings really not so much challenges, but it requires the church to start asking some other questions about how we are the church in our culture today, and how we did church and evangelism, you know, decades ago, I think is a lot different in how we do it today, and how we do it today is a lot like how Jesus did it when he came to the earth. And I think the relationship has a lot to do with that. Being in a Christian culture, let me show you a picture that I took yesterday. I was walking through the halls of a hospital and came across this poster. And it comes from the Narcotics Anonymous, where they are posting their helpline. But it just struck me so much. And I don't know if the visual of this poster is just coming to you as it came to me, but in the little tabs in the bottom of the poster, where there are the tear-offs for the numbers, so that you can take that home and call for the helpline for people who are in substance abuse addictions. Those tabs are gone, and it just spoke so highly to me of the reality of the culture that we are in. And one of those ways to sort of understand that is in the substance abuse issue that's going on. People, you know, that poster is just sharing to me over and over of how much people are desperately searching for help. And in Narcotics Anonymous, it's interesting that in their 12 steps, especially step 3, these steps were sort of written. They were written from a biblical framework, but the Christianity and any kind of adherence to any kind of religion or faith is sort of shunned away from in NAAA, but it still has a Christian basis to it. And in that third step, it speaks of that made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. So that's the third step in AA and NA. And it's one of the most successful recovery programs that we have seen in the history of our country. And I think it's because of its Christian emphasis that is behind the scenes be in the foundations of it. But we're at a point, because of a post-Christian society, we're at a point now where people don't have a basis or framework to be able to understand their higher power. Who do they? Because we have generations that are coming out now who have never stepped foot in a church before. Don't know what a Bible is, have never held a Bible, don't know how to open up a Bible or whatever. So it becomes extremely important for evangelism today to be able to give an opportunity to be able to share that if people are searching for their higher power, and I'm not just talking about substance abuse, it's across the board in our entire society. People are looking for meaning and purpose and mission in their life, and something that is bigger than them, as I think is what we are all searching for. The church, we have such a wonderful opportunity to be able to share Jesus, and to be able to give people a framework for understanding who God is. So I think it's one of the most important ministries of the church today. But unfortunately, evangelism is one of the most neglected ministries in the church. My wife and I, we were in contact and work with many, many different churches. And as we do, one of the least seen committees and work teams in a church is an evangelism committee. We've worked a lot. We struggled with, do we want to try to hold on to the word evangelism? And Meg, we started in the certification programs with Be a Disciple, and so glad that I was approached to be able to consider putting evangelism in that certification program as one of those certifications. And I struggle with, do we call it evangelism? Because that word has a lot of baggage with it that comes with it in the not only in the world, and I think televangelists and prosperity doctrines and on the street corners or whatever can contribute to some of those things. But in the church as well, evangelism has a lot of baggage to it. So maybe we need to find another word for evangelism, but I still think evangelism is the best word. Evangelism is the word that just transliterates into a messenger of good news, and that's what we are. So we kept it and called it Evangelism Certification Program, began to develop the program from a relational aspect, and as we have been offering that, and my wife also offers transformative evangelism through Be a Disciple, and that is one of the advanced courses in the lay servant ministries. And we've seen from little input and little participation, and we had to really struggle to get people into evangelism. But now we're starting to see that, in fact, the last class that she offered was completely full. And that's the first time that that's ever happened with transformative evangelism. So our hearts are opening, our eyes are opening. The world is searching and ready. And I just think it's a great time in the church.
That was such a powerful sign of the Narcotics Anonymous and the great need that our world has.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it really is.
So powerful. And I'm so thankful that you and Christine stayed with the term evangelism, practical ministry certification evangelism.
We did, and and we put together, it's a 4-course program, and as are all the become a required program in the Western Pennsylvania Conference of the United Methodist Church for those who are seeking to be recognized and approved as lay evangelists and conference evangelists.
That's so amazing that it's required.
Yes, it is. And taking a look at the program itself, in the certification of evangelism. There are 4 courses. The next course, the very first course, we begin the new year, starting here in January. And the one book that we have for that is called The Master Plan of Evangelism. And what that book does, it's a very classic. It's a evangelism classic, and it simply looks at how Jesus did it and explores the life of Jesus, and calls us then to be able to adopt that and understand that and use that. So these 4 courses have been developed from a highly relational point of view. So it's not so much about the preaching of revival services and all your traditional kind. It's not so much about handing out tracts and going knocking on door to door, but it's on one-on-one, face-to-face, and helping to grow our church members and people to understand that as well, and sharing Jesus from a point of view of relationship, rather than not so much forth-telling or proclamational evangelism, but we call it incarnational evangelism, sort of being Jesus and letting the light of Jesus shine through you in that relationship.
Yeah, that definitely sounds very opposite of a militant view of evangelism.
It does, and I thought it was interesting that you got, and it just shows some of the baggage that comes with with that. We have to spend a lot of time with churches interpreting as an evangelist, what does that mean in terms of what our ministry is.
So what is my question that's coming up is, what is, from past students that you worked with who earned this practical ministry certification, what's one thing they come back to you and they were surprised once they dove into the books about how Jesus did it versus how many Christians have done evangelism? What surprises them the most?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the assignments in the course, I believe this it takes us into about the 3rd course. You'll find this assignment is we show a picture, and this picture is of a very typical town neighborhood, where you can sort of tell in the picture that there's probably a poverty situation that is there. People are sitting outside, and for most of us in the church, we come from sort of the middle class kind of framework. That's what makes up most of our church members. But I simply show this picture, and I ask the students that if you were out for a walk and you're walking through your neighborhood and you're walking past this person sitting outside in this setting, which may be different from what you're used to, how do you start a conversation with that person? What are some of the ways in which you can begin to engage in that relationship and to build that relationship with a person that you're just walking past, rather than just your typical hello and keep on going? And we find that to be very, very eye-opening, because every day we either have those situations every day, those opportunities, or we need to make those opportunities. Stay out of the car sometime and walk to where you need to go, and engage in that way.
Oh, that's definitely a mindset to change one's view to making those opportunities.
It is a mind shift, because our culture has shifted to that. I just recently found myself really enjoying some of the old programs like Leave It to Beaver and those kinds of things, and because I'm watching them, and I guess it's a nostalgia for me, but there's also, when I'm watching them, I'm noticing just how far we've come from those days. Now there's a lot of things of changes that have taken place from those days that are very, very positive changes. But here's the things that I'm starting to notice. In those days, you didn't have a garage, or at least you didn't have an electric garage door opener. So you had to park out in the parking lot, and as you were getting out of your car, coming home from work or whatever, you're saying hello to your neighbors. And you see this going on in Leave It to Beaver and those kinds of shows, Mayberry, RFD. You just see this interaction that's taken place. And I contrast it today to where we wake up, we go to our attached garage, get in the car, push the garage door opener open, the garage door opens, we emerge from our car, we go out to work, we repeat it, we push the garage door opener so that we can get in. We don't interact with anybody, and then we go around back to where our enclosed patio is and have our own little barbecue back there. Whereas the front yard was the place of community in everybody's property. We've turned it into the enclosed patio in the backyard. I mean, we've come such a long way from those opportunities of being able to say hello and engage and knowing our neighbors, and so we work at changing that mindset.
That's so awesome. So for our friends that are watching this and feeling a nudge to become equipped through this practical ministry certification in evangelism, am I right that they need to know that the cohort is registering now, being gathered now? It launches January 18th. It's accredited, pay as you go. It's a year long, as you said, 4 6-week courses, taking breaks during busy holidays. I feel like I'm forgetting something, maybe that it is life-changing on a personal and professional level, but what are other nuts and bolts that they need to know?
Oh, I think that's pretty much it. And it is, the typical class at BeADisciple is a 2-week class. It's elevated a little bit because it is a 6-week class. It's not the same amount of work each day as a 2-week class would be. But there is a little bit of a higher expectation in the academic aspect of it. But people are just thrilled as they get to the end of that 4th course and be able to see where we've grown and the things that we've learned to that time. It's just all worth it.
Yes, it's exciting to think that come January 2022, they will have collapsed so much time in their training and be able to serve their zip code and their church, which should be synonymous, I'm aware, to be able to serve those two so much better in just a year's time.
Yes.
Awesome. Are you okay if I put your email address in the link in the comments below this video?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I will do that. And then I'll also post the link for you friends who are watching this to grab your spot in this cohort so you can earn a practical ministry certification in evangelism with John and Nancy and Christine. I feel like, am I forgetting anyone on the team?
No, that's it.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking your time today to share your wisdom with us.
Thank you, Meg. Enjoyed it.